Lily let go of the sofa. For a second, she wobbled, her knees knocking together. Then another. "She's walking!" Jack dropped the whisk. "Janet, she's walking!" Lily took 3 more steps, her arms out for balance like a miniature tightrope walker, before landing squarely on her diaper with a soft thud. Instead, she let out a peal of laughter that sounded exactly like Jack's when he'd successfully pulled off a prank. "That's my girl," Jack said, scooping her up and spinning her around. First the living room, then the world. Chapter 37. The Miniature Landlord. Lily's new mobility brought a fresh set of challenges. She had discovered that the world was full of interesting things to touch, taste, and most importantly, hide. One Tuesday, Mr. Furley came up to fix a supposedly clanking radiator. As he bent over his toolbox, muttering about the quality of modern piping, Lily crawled over and silently extracted his heavy ring of master keys from his back pocket. "All right, Tripper, that should hold it," Furley said, standing up and dusting off his hands. "Wait a second. My keys. Where are my keys?" Jack, who was busy trying to find his favorite paring knife, which had also disappeared, looked up. They were right there. "Mr. Furley, I know where they were. I want to know where they are." They spent 30 minutes tearing the living room apart. They looked under the sofa, behind the curtains, and even inside the refrigerator. Lily sat in her playpen, looking remarkably innocent, happily chewing on a rubber duck. It wasn't until Jack went to put Lily down for her nap that he found the treasure. Tucked neatly inside her handcrafted crib, beneath her favorite blanket, were Furley's keys, Jack's paring knife, and a single, slightly wilted carnation from Janet's shop. "I think we have a miniature landlord in the house." Jack laughed, handing the keys back to a bewildered Furley. "She's got the instincts. I'll give her that," Furley grumbled, though he couldn't hide the twinkle in his eye as Lily reached out and tried to grab his ascot. "Keep an eye on that one, Tripper. She'll be charging you rent before you know it." Chapter 38. The Full House Weekend. The spirit of the company of 3 was tested to its limits when Chrissy and Bobby decided to visit on the same weekend that Larry invited a very important date over for dinner at the apartment because his own place was undergoing a DEF-U2, spiritual cleansing, which Jack translated as "the landlord" finally found the unauthorized parrot. The apartment was a sea of bodies and laughter. Bobby was trying to help Jack in the kitchen, which resulted in a very organized but very slow salad preparation. Chrissy was teaching Lily how to knit with oversized plastic needles, and Larry was frantically trying to hide baby bottles so his date wouldn't think he was too domestic. "Larry, she's going to notice the high chair," Janet pointed out, trying to navigate through the crowd with a tray of appetizers. "I told her it's a postmodern sculpture," Larry hissed, just as the doorbell rang. The evening was a beautiful, chaotic mess. At one point, Lily managed to crawl out of her playpen and ended up at the dinner table, pulling on Larry's date's earring. "Oh, is this your daughter?" the date asked, looking charmed. She's the spiritual advisor," Larry blurted out. Jack and Janet exchanged a look and burst into laughter. The secret was out, but as the night progressed, it didn't matter. The apartment felt full, not just of people, but of history. As they sat on the balcony late that night, after the guests had left and the baby was finally asleep, the 3 original roommates stood together, looking at the Santa Monica moon. "It's different now," Chrissy said, leaning against the railing. "But it's the same. It's better," Janet said, leaning her head on Jack's shoulder. "It's home," Jack agreed. Chapter 39. The Decision. Success at the trio's table had reached a point where Jack and Janet were finally financially stable. For the first time, they had enough for a down payment on a house, a real house, with a yard for Lily to play in and more than one bathroom. They spent a Sunday afternoon looking at a charming bungalow just a few blocks away. It had white shutters, a fireplace, and a large kitchen that would have been Jack's dream a few years ago. "It's perfect, isn't it?" Janet asked, looking at the empty rooms. "We wouldn't have to worry about clanking radiators or Mr. Furley's tracksuits." Jack walked through the house, his footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. It was everything a standard family was supposed to want, but as he looked at Janet, he saw the same hesitation in her eyes that he felt in his heart. "It's quiet," Jack said. "Too quiet." They drove back to apartment 201. As they pulled into the driveway, they saw Mr. Furley arguing with a delivery man, Larry waving from the balcony, and the familiar, slightly lopsided 201 on the door. "Maybe we're not a standard family, Janet," Jack said, turning off the engine. "I think you're right, Jack. I think Lily needs the clanking radiator, and she definitely needs Larry and Mr. Furley." They decided to stay. They used the money to renovate the apartment instead, turning the second bedroom into a magical nursery and finally getting a refrigerator that didn't sound like a jet engine. They realized that a house is just walls and a roof, but a home is the people who knock on your door when you least expect them. Chapter 40. The Circle of Three. On Lily's second birthday, they held a party at the end of the pier, at the trio's table. The sun was setting, painting the sky in a spectacular array of colors, the sunset color that Chrissy had described to Bobby. The entire community was there. The regulars from the Beagle, the staff from the bistro, and the family that had been built through years of laughter and lies. Jack stood at the head of the table, holding Lily on his hip. Janet stood beside him, her hand in his. Chrissy was on his other side, her face glowing with joy. "A few years ago," Jack said, his voice carrying over the sound of the carousel, "I walked into a party and found 2 roommates. I thought I was just looking for a place to sleep. I didn't know I was looking for a reason to wake up." He looked at the 2 women who had saved him, and the child who was his future. To the company of 3, Jack toasted, raising his glass. "May the door always be open, and the kisses always be hers and hers." "And history's company too," Chrissy shouted, leading the room in a cheer. As the music started and the lights of the pier began to sparkle, Jack looked out at the Pacific. The horizon was vast and filled with possibilities, but his world was right here, contained within the circle of 3. The story of apartment 201 wasn't just about a living arrangement. It was a testament to the fact that sometimes the family you choose is the one that was waiting for you all along. And as the last of the cake was eaten and the stars came out, Jack Tripper knew that he was exactly where he was meant to be. He was home. Chapter 41. The Lunchbox Architect. As Lily turned 5, her world expanded to include a colorful backpack and the daunting gates of Santa Monica Elementary. Jack, true to his nature, found his greatest outlet in her daily lunchbox. While other children had peanut butter sandwiches, Lily arrived with miniature quiches and fruit skewers arranged like sunflowers. "Dad," Lily said one morning, looking at a meticulously crafted sushi-style wrap, "can you just make it look 10 normal?" "The kids think I'm the lunchbox architect," Jack chuckled, kissing her forehead. "Normal is boring, Lily. Besides, I have a reputation to uphold." But Lily was more like Janet than she cared to admit. She was the one who organized the block corner in her classroom, and she was the one who negotiated the peace treaty during the Great Sandbox War of 1985. She had Jack's flair, but Janet's steel. One afternoon, Jack found her in the kitchen, not playing with dolls, but lining up spice jars by height. "What are you doing, sweetie?" "They were messy, Daddy," she said matter-of-factly. "Now they're in a line, like the flowers at Mommy's shop." Jack felt a swell of pride. The legacy was safe. Chapter 42. The Beagle's Last Stand. The news hit Santa Monica like a rogue wave. The Regal Beagle was in trouble. A corporate coffee chain was looking to buy the lease and turn the beloved neighborhood pub into a sterile, glass-fronted franchise. "They can't do that," Larry shouted, slamming his fist onto the bar at apartment 201. "That pub is where I met half my ex-girlfriends, and it's where we all became a family," Janet added quietly. Jack looked at his friends. He knew what the Beagle meant to them. It was more than a bar. It was their living room, outside the apartment. He decided that the trio's table would host a fundraiser, a Save the Beagle gala. The night was a whirlwind. Jack prepared a Beagle Classics menu, elevating the humble burgers and fries into gourmet delicacies. Mr. Furley even dusted off a velvet vest he hadn't worn since the disco era, to act as the master of ceremonies. The highlight of the evening was a speech by Lily. "My daddy says the Beagle is where magic happens," she said into the microphone. "I don't want the magic to go away." By the end of the night, they had raised enough to secure the Beagle's lease for another decade. The corporate sharks retreated, and the smell of stale beer and warm memories remained safe. Chapter 43. A Call from the North. The phone rang late one Thursday evening. "Janet, Jack, you'll never guess."